had an amazing journey, and he has managed to get here and be well today because of a whole lot of things that happened. And Trina and Tom are going to take you through that. So I'm going to hand you over to Trina.
Thanks, Nathan. So what we're going to do, initially I'll introduce Tom and give you some background, but we sort of wanted to do this as an interactive conversation following Tom's journey. We have to focus a little bit on the medical journey because obviously that's kind of what it's about, but also on the personal journey and how Tom and I and a lot of other people have found workarounds to quite a fragmented, broken system. So he was admitted to hospital, had a gastroscopy, was found to have bleeding esophageal varices, portal hypertension, splenomegaly, and established cirrhosis. So this is in a relatively young guy. They did a liver biopsy at the time and he was found to have sarcoidosis, and the cirrhosis was sarcoid cirrhosis. Didn't have hepatitis B or C, HIV negative, not a drinker. So in the past history, type 2 diabetes with patchy control over the years, possibly some NASH, some fatty liver, but not a drinker, very moderate intermittent social drinker, ex-smoker, hepatitis B, C, HIV negative, intermittent episodes of depression, and he was a little bit chubby in the past. So past medical management, so from then until April, May last year, the medical management, he'd had regular gastroscopies with banding of bleeding varices, portal hypertension, beta blockers to reduce the portal pressure, insulin, diabetes management, regular bloods, antidepressants, but he'd never actually had any imaging. This particular episode of care started last year when Tom presented extremely unwell with compensated liver failure and sepsis. He was admitted to a hospital under the cardiology team.
Yeah, they didn't have a liver team.
They didn't have a liver team. They don't have a liver team. But even so, I mean, sepsis is a general medical emergency. Yeah. And he had an ultrasound on his liver that showed 3 large lesions. He then went on to have an MRI after discharge because it couldn't be done as an inpatient. It didn't really need to be done as an inpatient. And it showed 3 lesions, each greater than 7 centimetres, representative of hepatocellular cancers. He had compensated liver failure, advanced cirrhosis, sepsis, neutropenia, pancytopenia, not in a particularly good way. So he got diverted to the liver clinic at the Canberra Hospital. This was before I came involved, and they actually gave him a referral to palliative care and said, "See you later. Bye, goodbye, good luck." Tom came to see me and Nathan and I started a discussion, and we did a sort of search of all information that we could from the past. We actually got very little. The hospitals in Canberra are paper-based and everything's handwritten, and then when the notes get extraordinarily big, they take them to the dungeon and scan them in. So they couldn't really send us anything. Outpatients' letters are dictated and then go off somewhere else to be typed and then get posted. All imaging don't send any electronic reports, let alone images. So we managed to get some of those faxed through. Private pathology was probably the best, and we could download cumulative bloods and stuff like that. We couldn't get discharge summaries. I don't know where they went, and I don't think I've ever found them. Anyway, so a lot of stuff happened over that next few months. We were fiddling with Tom's medicines. We were discussing with various third parties, and Tom actually ended up down at the Austin in Melbourne.
Yeah, basically what happened was that through Nathan's sort of urgings and Trina, I went to Melbourne. I saw a surgeon associated with the Austin team. He initially said, "Look, I don't think it's so bad that you can't potentially have either chemo or radiotherapy," which is what I was told by Canberra. But
I just
really,
add in that the only treatment for Tom at that stage is a liver transplant. It's non-curable, it's palliative radiotherapy and chemotherapy. So the only cure or chance at any sort of length or quality of life is a liver transplant. The cut-off for liver transplants in Australia is that each individual HCC has to be less than 5 centimetres, and he had 3 greater than 7 centimetres.
so basically, I really wasn't a candidate. However, the normal treatment in that situation is what's called TACE, and TACE stands for transarterial chemotherapy embolisation.
It was initially planned for him to have 2 to 3 TACEs because they didn't think that his liver would stand up to 4. However, he ended up with 4. It was a rocky road and he had several episodes of decompensation. He was encephalopathic, was very, very sick during that time. There's no point-to-point, there was no discharge summaries. It's all paper-based. I couldn't get copies of just about anything.
To add to that, I had a couple of hospital admissions during that period. One was at Calvary Hospital in Canberra, and that was in, I think it was February this year. There is no discharge summary, electronic discharge summary from that hospitalisation. I asked them about that, whether they could upload it, and they basically, looked at me bemused. This is the medical records section.
Every time I sent Tom to hospital, I printed out a comprehensive, up-to-date list of what we were doing, recent bloods, past history, sarcoid cirrhosis for HCCs. Every time he came back, the recommendations were, we've checked his bloodborne virus status and could you tell him to stop drinking? And on every letter I sent up there, it said sarcoid cirrhosis, non-drinker, and we sent up his Hep B, HIV and Hep C status. So all the communication between health providers has been extremely ad hoc. The only thing that's been electronic has been the discharge summary from the Canberra hospital that I think we got one of, that's been point to point, nothing else. The public imaging are unable to send anything electronically. They only send in the mail or by fax. The hospitals are all paper-based, so they write, scan and won't send anything electronically. Tom has got a My Health record.
There are medications that are in the MedView, which I haven't been on for months. There's no real information about dosages. If I was in a trauma of some sort and somebody were to look up the MedView, it would be virtually useless to them. So, I actually
think it's more dangerous having that than not having it at all, because some of the drugs Tom is on are very dose critical, and there's no information about change doses, interactions, and there's only maybe a third of the drugs that you've been on and some that you actually haven't been on that are in there. But Tom and I have done a workaround. So Tom and his wife Lois, who's very organised, on top of things kind of person, he has a folder, and every time his meds are changed, he will ring me and I'll change it on my best practice, print it out and give him a copy. And that's the only way. So Tom's now got quite a big folder, and I've told him to shred the old ones, because that's one of the troubles. We don't want getting confused with old ones and new ones. And that's one of the things with the shared health summary in My Health record, is that we have a whole lot of historic data, so you don't actually know if it's true or someone's made a mistake or it hasn't been pulled down. So we've been communicating using our mobile phones with the Austin, the transplant team. If he goes to the outpatients clinic down there and they organise bloods, I CC myself in on their request. I often don't get it, but then we ring the path lab, they fax it to me, but then we ring the Austin and they haven't got copies. So we ring the path lab and they say, can you send them to the Austin? And they send them back to me. So what we do is we print it all out, give it to Tom and Lois, and they put it in their folder and take it with them. And that's the only way that we've managed to do a workaround.
I think every journey is unique, but I do worry about patients who are not necessarily in my position, who are elderly, infirm, or, and really are not in a position to be able to provide that information to their various clinicians.
But, I mean, Tom's fully aware that he actually would be dead if it wasn't for the extraordinary workarounds of a fragmented system by family, friends, providers. The people aren't broken. The people in the system are amazing. But the system that we work with is, I'm not allowed to swear, but it's not working. It's really broken. It's fragmented. It's overcomplicated. And even some of the workarounds are making it more complicated.
I think that's what we really need to focus on. How do we make the system work most effectively? Because that's really what's going to determine the future and the future outcomes for healthcare for people who require serious intervention, of which, as I say, there are hundreds of thousands in Australia.
So I think the thing with eHealth, the selling point is that we are on a journey. We're learning. It's a complex system, an incredibly complex system, and those of us down the bowels of it get it. We need to work with everyone to create and craft the solutions, and there will be a lot of solutions. Hopefully a lot of those lessons will be transferable over time. So thank you very much, and I'm sure Tom and Trina will be around to sign their book later on. Thank you.